Hi, hope you're having a great week. Alex Kirshner back to pick another week of college football games for Odds Checker. Week 9, folks. We're moving along. I feel like everything moves pretty quickly this year, and the college football season has been no exception at all. And we're getting closer and closer to basically the entire country being back. We took another step last week with the Big Ten's return, and in short order, we're going to also have the Pac-12 and the MAC joining the Big Ten and the Mountain West back in the fold in FBS. I want to start this week in the SEC, LSU and Auburn. I have LSU -1 in this game. That has since moved to around -3, where I still think it is pretty good value, and where I would be more interested in LSU than I would be in Auburn. LSU's offense is excellent, and we talk a lot about LSU's defensive problems under Bo Pelini and some of the issues that they've had there, particularly the way that they got inexplicably thrashed by Mississippi State in the first game of the year. All of that's still true, but LSU's offense can score a ton of points, and I'm just not sure, even against that Pelini defense that has struggled so much, that Auburn can match them. I expect Auburn to score a bit, but on the other hand, I just think that Auburn's defense, particularly in the secondary, is going to be kind of overwhelmed by some of the weapons that LSU has seen emerge in the passing game. My pick does not really depend on whether Miles Brennan is back at quarterback or whether TJ Finley, the true freshman, who looked very good against South Carolina, is still in there. I just think LSU scores too much. I think that Auburn has been fortunate to even be 3-2 at this point and could quite easily be 2-3 or 1-4. And so I like the Tigers, and by that I mean I like LSU. In the Big 12 this week, Kansas State, West Virginia, I have Kansas State +3 in this game. This boils down to West Virginia's offense for me. I just think that they're bad. They have no running game to speak of. The offensive line is not very good. And the passing game is not particularly potent. So when you don't have any of those things, you don't have a recipe to score a ton of points. I think that Kansas State has a fine defense, not great, but fine. And I don't think that West Virginia is going to be able to do a ton when the Mountaineers have the ball. On the other hand, I think that Kansas State's play-action passing game, Kansas State's RPO game, these things have continued to look good, even with Skylar Thompson, the quarterback, hurt, and Will Howard, his backup, getting a lot of time. I think that Kansas State has the best unit in this game in their offense, and I think that overall they're just a little bit better of a team, and I don't really think that K-State should be getting points at all. So I'm pretty pleased to be taking, don't get me wrong, I'm going to take them happily, and we'll take Kansas State +3. And if you're looking for a value play this week, I think that I would even consider Kansas State on the money line as a road underdog. Another road underdog that I have and that I would also consider for an even more handsome payout on the money line if you wanted to be a little bolder, Charlotte. The Charlotte 49ers visiting Duke. I have Charlotte +10.5, and I would seriously think about Charlotte, folks, on the money line here. I watch a bit of Charlotte. I'm just interested in that program. I think they might win this game. I think that they are, this is still a young program with a second-year coach in Will Healy, and they're growing, and there's some growing pains, and they've had some inconsistencies. But I just think they're good, and especially on offense, I think they can move the ball. Anytime you have a Power 5 game against a Group of 5 team, you are running into the risk that possibly Charlotte's just going to have a really hard time blocking, and they're not going to be able to outrun guys. I am cognizant of that. The problem for me with Duke is that they just don't have the guys. I don't think that this is really a Power 5 roster that Duke has. It's one of the worst in the Power 5. The Chase Bryce thing at quarterback, the Clemson transfer for Duke, has not worked out. He's been under pressure all the time. I think Charlotte's going to hold up fine here. And if you're looking for a big value play on the money line, I would seriously look at the 49ers. Elsewhere in the American this week, one of the bigger games in the Group of 5 all season to this point, I have Cincinnati -6 against Memphis. This game is in Cincinnati at Nippert Stadium. I think Cincinnati's defense is awesome, and I think it's a top 5 defense in college football. I don't mean a top 5 defense for the G5. I don't mean, wow, what a great defense for Cincinnati. I just mean this is a great defense. I would put them up against almost anybody in the country outside of maybe Georgia and Ohio State, of course, where Luke Fickell, Cincinnati's coach, used to coach. The Cincinnati secondary in particular is amazing, and that really, really does not bode well for Memphis, which is a team that is designed to stretch you both vertically and horizontally in the passing game. The passing game is their bread and butter. It is how they ruin defenses' days, and I just don't think it's a great matchup for them. This line has moved to about Cincinnati -7. If you can get Cincinnati at a touchdown or less, I would be really tempted to do it. I think I would stay away from Memphis pretty much at any number that you're going to find because I just don't think it's a good matchup. In the Mountain West, of course, which also returned along with the Big Ten last week, I have San Diego State visiting Utah State. San Diego State, the Aztecs -7 in this game. Still early going, and we kind of learn more about these teams, particularly the Big Ten and Mountain West right now. These newer entrants to the 2020 season, we learn new things every week, and obviously any analysis that you have of them has to be subject to change. But right now in the early going, I think Utah State might be really, really, really bad. Other than what Maryland got done to them against Northwestern in Evanston last week, I think that what Boise State did to Utah State was as dramatic a blowout as anybody in the country faced last week. And I think that Utah State's offense is not going to get a lot better. This is, a team that, of course, had a highly drafted NFL quarterback in Jordan Love for the last couple of years. They don't have that right now, and they just don't have the ability to push the ball down the field the way they've become accustomed to. It's a little less attractive at 7.5, which is where that has moved since I got it on Sunday. But I think I might do it at less than 10. And I would absolutely not touch Utah State because I just don't think that the Aggies have the guys really to compete with San Diego State. And it's not that San Diego State is a dominant program. I mean, they did look very good against UNLV. But I think that they have enough guys to beat Utah State without any trouble and to cover. Staying in the Mountain West for a minute, Colorado State +1 at Fresno State for me. I like the Rams in this game. This line has moved in my favor a good bit, and Colorado State is now a 2-point favorite rather than an underdog. I still think they're interesting there, and I would still stay far away from Fresno. I think if you do anything, it has to be Colorado State because they just have a little bit more talent, frankly, on their roster than Fresno does. These have been, for the last couple of years, the second and third best teams in the Mountain West in terms of recruiting behind Boise. Colorado State has been notably, I think, a notch ahead, a small notch ahead of Fresno. So I think they're in a stronger position coming into this year. I think that when you have two new coaches, that's kind of a wash. It gives me some hesitance for sure to even be picking a game, frankly, with two coaches who have not, in Steve Adazio's case at Colorado State, has not coached a game because they had a cancellation last week, and Kalen DeBoer at Fresno has only coached one. But I just think that Colorado State is in a stronger position, and getting points or getting a point, I wasn't able to not do it. Would still think about them as long as you're doing it for less than a field goal. Did not like how Fresno looked against Hawaii and would probably stay away from Fresno at pretty much any number that you're going to find this week. Speaking of Hawaii, I have Hawaii, and I won a bet on Hawaii last week in this Fresno game. I have Hawaii at a pick'em visiting Wyoming this week. I was happy to get it there. Hawaii is actually now a slight favorite, and it's another situation where I think if you can get Hawaii at a field goal or less, I'm enticed by that. I would stay away from Wyoming. I think that Hawaii's offense is the best unit in this game. Wyoming's offense very bad. Hawaii's defense very bad. So when Hawaii has the ball is kind of the most interesting phase of this game. And I think it's where one team has the biggest advantage over the other. So I like Hawaii. I think that they're going to have not only a decent game here, but I think a good year. And I think they might be a bit undervalued because, we just haven't seen them much yet. And they actually weren't nationally televised last week. But I really believe in that Hawaii's offense ability, in the ability of Hawaii's offense to score enough points to cover there. I want to move to Conference USA and take us home there, actually, for a couple picks. I have North Texas -3.5 at UTEP. UTEP is a little better this year. They've won 3 games, but if you kind of look under the hood at that, that's a 10-point win over Stephen F. Austin, a 4-point win over Abilene Christian, and a 31-6 win over ULM. So that's 2 FCS teams and maybe the worst team in FBS. And in their games against real live FBS competition, they have lost by a ton to Texas, lost by more middling amounts to Charlotte and I believe Louisiana Tech. I just don't really buy UTEP at anything less than like a touchdown of cushion against a decent team in Conference USA. North Texas has looked a lot better the last few weeks after having some huge defensive challenges at the beginning of the year. This has moved to UNT -5. I would still be interested there. I think that I would stay far away from UTEP unless this thing gets up close to like 10 points, at which point I would consider the Miners. I have an over for you as well. UTSA FAU in Boca. I'll have that at over 50. That one's actually moved against me down to like 49.5, so you could get a better number than me. UTSA plays at a pretty quick pace. They like to run a lot of plays. So far, FAU doesn't. I think that might change just going off Willie Taggart's history. He's never been a breakneck pace guy, but he is also not a guy who year in, year out runs one of the slowest paced offenses in the country, which is what FAU has been so far. I think that might correct itself. And I also like UTSA's new quarterback, Frank Harris, who had played there before, lost the job. Lowell Narcisse then got hurt. Frank Harris is back. I think this game can get into the mid-50s and be a relatively low-stress hit for the over, but we'll see. And the last pick that I want to share with you this week, Western Kentucky visiting BYU in Provo. I have BYU minus 28.5. I would do it at anything 31 or less. BYU is really, really good. Western Kentucky is really, really bad. And I have unfortunately had to watch some Western Kentucky because of some bets that I have made on their games and on them in the last couple weeks. It's just not good. They don't have any passing game to speak of. Their quarterback situation has become very ugly. We all know BYU is going to throw the ball around efficiently and score a ton of points. The thing that makes me most confident, though, is that WKU just does not score. I don't think they can score in this game. I had slight pause because of the slow pace that WKU under Tyson Helton has preferred. But I think that they are so bad and BYU is so good that even if BYU only scores 35 points, it is entirely possible that we have an ultra low, a 3-point Western Kentucky output. I mean, that's in play. I think more likely is that BYU is somewhere in the 40s and Western Kentucky is somewhere in the teens. But either way, I feel really good about BYU, and I think that you should, folks, keep in mind, I'm just saying, but I'm not saying, BYU for the playoff. They haven't lost any games, and they're going to win this game by a lot. If they beat Boise State in a couple weeks, I think we have to start talking to our kids about the prospect of BYU taking that 4th playoff spot this year. Again, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Thank you for giving this video your time, for hearing me out, for bearing with me. I wish you happy hunting this week, and hopefully we can all go and make some money. Let's go do it.